U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Saturday to impose a 10% tariff on goods imported from China. The latest U.S. trade protectionist measure has drawn widespread opposition both domestically and internationally. The White House said the 10% tariff is on all imports from China on top of existing tariffs. Trump says the tariffs dovetail with his embrace of protectionist measures. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning has said that China always believes that there is no winner in a trade war or tariff war, and remains steadfast in safeguarding its national interests. Spokesperson for the Ministry of Commerce He Yadong said China's position on the tariff issue is consistent. Tariff measures are not conducive to the interests of either China or the United States, nor to the rest of the world, he said. According to the executive order, the United States also imposed a 25% tariff on goods from Mexico and Canada. For energy products from Canada, the administration imposed a 10% tariff. China will file a lawsuit with the WTO regarding the wrongful practices of the U.S. in imposing tariffs on Chinese goods and will take corresponding countermeasures to firmly safeguard its rights and interests, the Ministry of Commerce, MOFCOM, said in a statement on Sunday. On Saturday, the U.S. declared it would impose a 10% tariff on Chinese goods. China is strongly dissatisfied with and firmly opposes U.S. tariffs imposed on Chinese goods, the ministry said. The imposition of a 10% tariff on Chinese goods by the U.S. can have wide-ranging economic, political, and social consequences, affecting both countries and global trade. Increased prices for U.S. consumers. How it happens: import tariffs are often passed on to consumers through higher prices for goods. Affected products, commonly imported goods such as electronics, furniture, clothing, and household appliances may become more expensive. Consequence: higher costs can reduce consumer purchasing power, leading to slower growth in consumer spending, which is a key driver of the U.S. economy. Disruption of supply chains. How it happens: many U.S. companies rely on parts and raw materials from Chinese suppliers. Consequence: tariffs increase production costs, forcing companies to absorb the costs, lowering profit margins. Raise prices on finished goods. Restructure supply chains, potentially moving manufacturing to other countries, e.g., Vietnam, Mexico. Retaliatory measures from China. How it happens: in response to U.S. tariffs, China may impose counter-tariffs on U.S. goods such as soybeans, automobiles, and technology products. Consequence: U.S. exporters face reduced access to the Chinese market, leading to declining exports and lower revenues for industries such as agriculture and technology. Impact on U.S. farmers and exporters. How it happens: China often targets U.S. agricultural products, e.g., soybeans, corn, pork, in retaliation. Consequence: U.S. farmers face lower demand and falling prices, which can lead to financial strain, especially in rural areas reliant on exports. Potential government response: the U.S. may provide subsidies or aid packages to support affected farmers. Slower economic growth. How it happens: higher tariffs can reduce trade volumes between the U.S. and China, both of which are major global economies. Consequence: trade tensions can slow global economic growth by reducing business investment due to uncertainty, lowering consumer confidence, weakening industrial production, inflationary pressure in the U.S. How it happens: tariffs increase the cost of imported goods, which may contribute to higher overall inflation. Consequence: the Federal Reserve may respond by raising interest rates to control inflation, which can further slow economic growth and increase borrowing costs for consumers and businesses. Increased trade diversification. How it happens: U.S. companies may seek to reduce reliance on China by shifting production and sourcing to other countries. Consequence: countries like Vietnam, India, and Mexico may benefit from increased investment and trade opportunities as businesses diversify their supply chains. Deterioration of US-China relations. How it happens, trade disputes can escalate into broader political tensions, affecting areas like national security, technology, and geopolitical cooperation, e.g., on climate change or global health. Consequence: tensions may lead to restrictions on technology transfers, visa policies, and investment flows, further straining bilateral relations. Impact on global trade and multilateral agreements. How it happens, US-China trade tensions may disrupt global trade flows and weaken institutions like the World Trade Organization, WTO. Consequence: other countries may be forced to choose sides or face trade spillovers, leading to increased protectionism and fragmentation of global trade networks. Potential benefits for US domestic industry. How it happens, tariffs on Chinese imports can encourage domestic production by making imported goods less competitive. Consequence: some US industries, e.g., steel, textiles, may experience short-term growth as companies invest in local production to avoid tariffs. Limitations: long-term benefits may be limited if domestic manufacturers struggle to match China's cost efficiency and supply capacity. Impact on Chinese economy. How it happens, reduced exports to the US can weaken China's manufacturing sector and economic growth. Consequence: China may accelerate its efforts to diversify export markets and stimulate domestic consumption to offset the impact. Structural adjustments: China may invest more in technology development, infrastructure, and trade partnerships with regions like Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia. Potential for trade negotiations. How it happens, tariffs may push both countries to re-engage in trade talks to reduce tensions. Consequence: if successful, negotiations could lead to revised trade agreements, addressing issues like intellectual property and market access. The imposition of a 10% US tariff on Chinese goods can lead to higher consumer prices, supply chain disruptions, reduced exports, and economic uncertainty. While some US industries may benefit, the broader consequences include slower economic growth, inflationary pressures, and heightened geopolitical tensions. Effective negotiation and supply chain diversification are crucial strategies to mitigate these impacts. China's reaction to a 10% US tariff on Chinese goods would likely be a combination of economic retaliation, strategic trade adjustments, and diplomatic actions. Below are potential responses. Retaliatory tariffs on US goods. What could happen? China may impose counter-tariffs on US exports, targeting politically sensitive industries. Common targets: agricultural products, e.g., soybeans, corn, pork, wheat. Automobiles and industrial equipment. Technology products. Goal: to put economic pressure on US farmers, manufacturers, and key political constituencies, thereby increasing domestic political opposition to the tariffs. Export restrictions on critical materials. What could happen? China may restrict exports of essential materials, such as rare earth elements, crucial for electronics, batteries, and military equipment. Key components in global supply chains, e.g., semiconductors or battery technology. Goal: to disrupt US industries that depend on Chinese raw materials and advanced manufacturing. Acceleration of trade partnerships. What could happen? China may strengthen trade agreements with other regions to diversify its export markets and reduce reliance on the US. Potential partners. Southeast Asia, via the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP. European Union, EU. Middle East, Africa, and Latin America. Goal: to secure alternative markets and reduce the economic impact of US tariffs. Currency devaluation. What could happen? China may allow the yuan to weaken to offset the impact of tariffs on export prices. Impact: a weaker yuan makes Chinese goods more competitive globally by reducing their price in foreign currencies. Risk: currency devaluation could provoke accusations of currency manipulation from the US, further escalating trade tensions. Increased support for domestic industries. What could happen? China may provide subsidies, tax breaks, and financial incentives to support its export industries and mitigate the impact of tariffs. Examples of support: investments in high-tech sectors, e.g., semiconductors, AI, and electric vehicles. Expansion of state-backed infrastructure projects to stimulate domestic demand. Goal: to maintain economic stability and encourage self-sufficiency in key industries. Targeted non-tariff barriers. What could happen? China may impose regulatory hurdles on US companies operating within its borders, including delayed licensing approvals, increased customs inspections and compliance checks, restrictions on market access for certain US businesses. Goal: to exert indirect pressure on US corporations while avoiding direct escalation. Diplomatic and political maneuvers. What could happen? China may escalate its diplomatic rhetoric, accusing the US of protectionism and undermining global trade norms. Actions: filing complaints with the World Trade Organization, WTO. Strengthening alliances with other major economies to counterbalance US influence. Goal: to frame the US as the aggressor in the global trade arena and rally international support. Restrictions on US investments and tech firms. What could happen? China may limit or ban the operations of US technology firms, e.g., Apple, Microsoft, Qualcomm, or restrict access to the Chinese market. Impact: this would disrupt the global supply chains of major US companies that rely on China for manufacturing and sales. Public relations and nationalism. What could happen? The Chinese government may encourage nationalistic sentiments, urging consumers to boycott US products and support domestic brands. Examples: campaigns promoting Huawei over Apple. Increased marketing of Chinese-made consumer electronics, automobiles, and other goods. Increased focus on technological self-reliance. What could happen? China may accelerate investments in homegrown technologies to reduce dependency on US tech and innovation. Key areas: semiconductors, artificial intelligence, AI, renewable energy technologies, e.g., solar panels, EV batteries. Goal: to achieve long-term technological independence and become a global leader in innovation. Military and geopolitical tensions. What could happen? Economic tensions may spill over into military posturing and geopolitical conflicts in regions like the South China Sea or Taiwan. Consequence: heightened risk of military exercises, arms buildups, and diplomatic standoffs. Goal: to assert China's regional dominance and deter further US aggression. Potential trade negotiations. What could happen? China may push for renewed trade talks to negotiate tariff reductions or exemptions. To reach a mutually beneficial agreement, addressing concerns over intellectual property, market access, and tariff reduction. China's likely reaction to US tariffs includes retaliatory measures, export restrictions, and strengthening alternative trade partnerships. The escalation could affect global trade, supply chains, and geopolitical stability. However, China may also pursue diplomatic negotiations to prevent prolonged economic harm. Both countries risk significant economic losses unless a resolution is reached. What did Chinese government react to the 10% US tariff? What did Chinese say? US President Donald Trump signed an executive order on Saturday to impose a 10% tariff on goods imported from China. According to the executive order, the US also imposed a 25% tariff on goods from Mexico and Canada. The unilateral imposition of tariffs by the US seriously violates WTO rules. It does not contribute to resolving its own issues, but also undermines normal economic and trade cooperation between China and the US. China hopes that the US will view and address its own issues, such as fentanyl, in an objective and rational manner, instead of using tariffs as a coercive measure against other nations. China urges the US to correct its erroneous practices, meet the Chinese side halfway, confront issues directly, engage in candid dialogue, strengthen cooperation, and manage differences based on equality, mutual benefit, and respect. The latest US trade protectionist measure has drawn widespread opposition both domestically and internationally. This is an escalation of US protectionism with no clear economic justification, driving up costs for consumers and businesses while disrupting global supply chains, Zhu Mi, a senior research fellow at the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation. Zhu noted the US has not specified product categories for the new tariffs, as they may apply broadly rather than targeting specific goods. If the tariffs are put in place, this wide-ranging move will reshape trade and supply chains across all 4 countries, impacting businesses at large, Zhu said. If the tariff order takes effect, it will negatively impact all 3 countries, China, Mexico, and Canada, key US trading partners. Chinese investments in Mexico and Canada will also be affected, Lu Xiong, an expert on US studies and research fellow at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences. It's a lose-lose scenario for all 4 sides. The US will also bear the cost, as higher tariffs fuel inflation, raise living expenses, and make it harder for the government to maintain control of the situation, Lu said.